how do we respond when others are judging us, when we are the recipient of judgment? That can take us out of love, out of feeling the love paradigm, because that can be really painful to be judged by other people. So the first thing is, instead of taking on the judgment, we move from judgment, this one coming from outside of ourselves, we move from taking on the judgment, we move to consideration. Because see, if we take on the judgment, we immediately feel, oh, I feel bad, oh, I feel judged. But if we step outside of their judgment into consideration, oh, they said this thing. I'm going to think about that. I'm going to consider that. And we can even say to the person, if they're actively in the middle of judgment, we could say, I hear what you're saying. That's an interesting perspective. I'm going to consider that, or I'm going to give that some thought. Oftentimes that will shut someone down, so they'll stop judging us because they'll be like, oh, thank God, he finally heard me. She finally listened, And so in many ways, it's very helpful for us because it will stop them judging. But for us, we don't take the judgment on. It's like we hear it, and when we say, oh, I'm really going to consider that, and we might be saying that directly to the person, or, they might not be there in person. We might just be saying it to ourselves. But either way, we no longer accept judgment. We consider what people have said. And we really do consider. We look at ourselves and we think, is that true about me? Now, maybe a little bit, maybe sometimes. Is it always true? No. Is it partly true? In some cases, maybe not at all. So we really consider, and then in the part of considering, we also look at the other person's motivation. What is their motivation for that judgment? Are they my boss, and are they simply trying to get me to be, better at my job? Okay. Is it my beloved, and they're simply trying to get me to operate in our relationship in a way that's more comfortable for them? Or is this a person who is themselves either hurting or insecure, and they're just throwing judgment around so that they feel better? From an external judgment from somebody else, we consider, is that true? Is that not? Is that always true, or only sometimes true, or never true? Or was it true once and never again? And then we ask ourselves, what's their motivation for the judgment? Because even if what they're saying is true, if their motivation is to try and make themselves feel better, then, that factors into, do I need to change this about myself or not? Because sometimes we might see, oh, yes, what that person is saying really is true quite a lot of the time, and they are my boss, they don't hate me, and, yep, maybe I need to change that. Or that's just a random person that I know, and they're not my boss, and what they said is unkind and hurtful, and maybe they're feeling bad about themselves, and I don't think it's true about me. Oh, I don't need to change anything. This isn't even about me. And that's an important thing, to identify that when it's not about us. We step away from it. We step out from it. When we consider and add in the motivation, and we identify, maybe there's some truth to what they said, and, maybe I do need to make a shift, then we do from a place of, we decided that it was necessary. We didn't do it because, I was judged, I'm a bad person, I was caught out, whatever. No, it's like, I really thought this through, and I've decided this is necessary. Now, sometimes we might need to get back to the person and say, I've really given that consideration, and this is what I've decided. And sometimes we don't need to get back to them. Most of the time, we don't need to get back, especially if their motivation was unkind, or if they aren't looking for an answer. But especially if it's our beloved, then we probably do need to get back to them. so that they know they've been heard and that we considered, and so that they can count on, here's what we're planning on doing, or we're not going to change that, but this is why. It's not, I'm not dismissing you, my beloved, and not changing this just because, but here, because why? And that it doesn't mean I don't love you, but this is where I'm at, and I'd love to hear more from you about this.